Harvard University leaders are suing the Trump administration. They filed a lawsuit to stop a federal freeze on more than $2 billion in grants. The White House sent the university a letter demanding a list of changes. It claims universities, including Harvard, allowed anti-Semitism to go unchecked at protests against Israel's war in Gaza. Now, Harvard said it would not comply with the demand, so the government froze the federal funding. The lawsuit says the funding freeze violates constitutional rights.
It is time to bring back our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, to break this down. So, Khalif, this is not just Harvard. You got Cornell, Columbia, Brown, Penn. The list goes on and on. Some of what Harvard is saying is this goes beyond addressing just anti-Semitism. So what is it the Trump administration wants them to do specifically?
Most of the things in that April 11th letter that the Trump administration sent to Harvard was surrounding around DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, trying to change Harvard's hiring practices. They also wanted a list of students that participated in protests on campus, and Harvard pushed back with that because you see what the Trump administration is doing recently with deporting students, specifically people that have participated in protests. So Harvard saying, well, we're not going to give you the list of students so then you can go and deport them. They're also wanting them to come up and create new processes in place to expand viewpoints. And so a number of these things is what Harvard is saying is going against their First Amendment rights, specifically their right to free speech. If you're saying that you don't like my viewpoint and you want to bring in some different and alternative viewpoints, well, that would now attempt to be, content specific, which would normally the government can't do when attempting to chill your speech. When the government wants to chill speech, it has to, if they want to not, be viewpoint specific, if it doesn't want to be content neutral, if it wants to say, I want to change the things you're saying, well, it has to be a compelling public interest, has to be narrowly tailored. And Harvard is saying, well, you guys have failed to do that. The government does not and cannot, is what Harvard says, identify any rational connection between the anti-Semitic concerns and the medical, scientific, and technological research that we're doing with the $2.2 billion that you're attempting to fund and freeze, I should say. And so the causal connection between the two, as Harvard has mentioned, it's not there. And so the government in this situation has picked a fight against normally someone that is ready for a fight. You're talking about the smartest. You're talking about the brightest. You're not talking about just any old college or university. You're talking about Harvard. Mm-hmm. So these folks not only have the resources, but they have the brains to fight you back. And that's what they're doing. They're pushing back and fighting back in court.
And speaking of the brains that Harvard has here, the $2.2 billion, when they're talking about the medical research here, they're saying not only is this violating our First Amendment right, you're also hurting the American people because we're researching diseases, things like that. This is going to harm the American people. If you freeze this funding, it's harming it right now.
And they say that American success, preserving American security, maintaining American position as a global leader is important. And the way that you ensure that those things are secured is that you ensure that research continues. Well, if you're now going to stop this research at one of the largest and best research institutions in the country, in the world, I should say, then that's going to be problematic. And so what does the Trump administration say in response to that? Well, the gravy train of federal assistance is over. The enrichment of grossly overpaid bureaucrats with tax dollars is coming to an end. So that's the response, more of a PR spot, really not hitting on any of the concerns that they talk about and not addressing the true issue is where is the connection between the two? Because if we even roll this back a little bit, this argument didn't start with this new president. It started with the old president. Dr. Gay, the first African-American president in Harvard history, forced to step down. Why? Because there was a push and attack at the way that the Ivy League presidents were addressing anti-Semitic concerns on their campuses. She, stood 10 toes down and believed that what she was doing was right. But then at some point she felt like the conversation had shifted to her and moved away from Harvard and decided to step down. Insert President Garber, and he said, listen, I got the time. You guys want to come after me and say that what we're doing is not right? We'll stand here and we'll follow suit, and we'll file suit if we have to.
What's your gut feeling on where the strength of this case lies? Do you feel a little stronger towards the defense of Harvard right now with what you're hearing?
Well, what I can say is I think that Harvard has the precedent behind them, right? And they have the resources behind them. And so when I have individuals come into my office and they talk about, well, what does litigation look like? Litigation is expensive. Well, we can check that box. They got a $56 billion endowment, so they're not worried about the cost of litigation. Well, now, do you have an argument? Well, they have precedent behind them where the argument is there. Specifically, your First Amendment argument. Do I have a causal connection for which you're attempting to freeze my funds? And then we're not even talking about the last part, the due process portion. Is this the normal process in which you freeze funds? Is the executive branch even allowed to freeze funds? Those will be the counter arguments that Harvard will address and ask the court to unpack. Because typically, if Congress has appropriated these funds and you've already earmarked and given these funds, to now stop them, you would assume there's a process there. Maybe I violated the contract. Maybe I haven't done something that I'm supposed to do. But it's not just because you don't like what I'm saying or doing. I don't know if that's what the process for freezing funds is. And so I would imagine that that would be one of the three mechanisms where Harvard would be successful. They have the resources, they can go forever. They have the time, they have the brain power, and I think they have history on their side.